Iris, you are not going to believe the rabbit hole I fell down this week.
Yeah.
It involved uh, monkeys, puzzles,
Oh, yeah?
and basically questioning every motivational poster I've ever, seen.
Okay, Donald. Monkeys leading to an existential crisis. I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1949. This psychologist, Harry Harlow, he gives these rhesus monkeys a puzzle.
A puzzle? Like what kind?
Pretty simple mechanical thing. Unhook a latch, pull a pin, lift a cover. Nothing, too crazy for a monkey.
Right, standard stuff.
But here's the kicker. They solved it. And then they just kept solving it,
Yeah.
like for fun.
For fun, no treats involved, no bananas or anything.
Nope. No bananas, no back scratches, nothing. Nada.
Huh. So they were just genuinely enjoying the challenge itself.
Exactly. Harlow called it a third drive intrinsic reward.
Yeah.
Just the sheer satisfaction of figuring it out.
Intrinsic reward. Okay.
Then, and this is where it gets really weird, Iris, when they did start giving them raisins for solving it.
Yeah. What happened? They got faster.
No. They actually got worse at it. Made more mistakes.
Wait, hold on. Rewarding them made them less competent. That seems backward. It flies in the face of everything we think about motivation.
Tell me about it. And it wasn't just monkeys. Years later, this other scientist, Edward Soki,
Dacia, yeah, I know his work.
right, he did similar experiments, but with college students and a soma puzzle. You know those little plastic block puzzles?
Oh, yeah, those things are addictive. What did he find?
Well, he paid some students to solve it, and guess what? When they thought the experiment was officially over,
Let me guess. The paid group wasn't interested anymore.
exactly, they were way less interested in just playing with the puzzle for its own sake compared to the students who were never paid at all.
Wow. So this whole intrinsic motivation idea,
Yeah.
it's not just some, fuzzy concept. It's a real powerful driver.
Totally. And those external rewards, the gold stars, the bonuses,
Hmm.
they might actually be, well, undermining it.
That is definitely not what they teach you in business school, Donald.
Nope. And that's exactly what this whole deep dive is about, Iris. We're going to unpack the surprising science behind what really motivates us.
Based on Daniel Pink's book, Drive. Right.
That's the one. You flagged it for us. And honestly, for good reason, you, our listener, you're looking for those aha moments, right?
Yeah, those insights that help you understand what makes you tick and maybe tweak how you approach work or even just, life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to dig into why those old carrot and stick methods often just fail, what really gets us going.
And most importantly, what you can actually do with this info, like practical takeaways.
Precisely. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding the science of motivation without having to wade through stacks of research papers.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's dive deep and maybe challenge some old assumptions.
Absolutely, Donald. Let's unlock this.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about what Pink calls motivation 2.0.
Right, the classic carrots and sticks.
Yeah, basically the operating system most of us and most organizations have been running on for, well, forever, it feels like.
It's built on that simple idea, isn't it? Reward what you want more of, punish what you want less of.
Exactly. Pay raises for hitting targets, grades for studying, frequent flyer miles. It's everywhere. It feels kind of intuitive.
It really does. It's like baked into how we structure things, school, work.
Achieve the goal, get the prize, fail, face the music. It's deeply ingrained.
But here's where Pink says it gets tricky. This system, Motivation 2.0, it's starting to show its age. It's becoming incompatible with the modern world in three big ways.
Okay, 3 incompatibilities. What's the first one?
It's about how we organize what we do now. Think about the rise of open source.
Oh, like Wikipedia or Linux.
Exactly. Wikipedia, Firefox, Linux, Apache, even get this, open source beer recipes.
Open source beer. Seriously.
Seriously, these are huge, complex projects built mostly by volunteers. They're not getting a direct paycheck for contributing code or articles. So where's the carrot?
That's a really good point. Wikipedia basically demolished the paid encyclopedia model. What is driving those people?
Well, this survey of open source developers by Lakhani and Wolf found something really key.
Yeah.
They said, quote, enjoyment-based intrinsic motivation, namely how creative a person feels when working on the project, is the strongest and most pervasive driver.
Ah, so it's back to that intrinsic motivation, the joy of creating, the challenge.
Precisely. And it's not just software. We're seeing new kinds of organizations popping up.
Yeah.
Social businesses, like Muhammad Yunus started.
Right, and things like B corporations too.
Yeah, B Corp. For benefit organizations like Mozilla,
Yeah.
they legally have to consider social good, not just profit. The old model doesn't fully explain them.
It really suggests a shift, doesn't it? Maybe purpose and contribution are becoming bigger drivers than we used to think.
Definitely seems that way. Okay, so the second incompatibility Pink points out is how we think about what we do.
How we think. What do you mean?
Well, behavioral economics, Kahneman, Early, that crowd, they've shown we're not always these perfectly rational creatures just maximizing our own gain.
Right, we're not robots. Emotions, fairness.
Mm.
That stuff matters.
Totally. Think about the ultimatum game. Someone gets $10, has to offer you a split. If they offer you, say, $2 and keep 8.
Rationally, you take the $2. It's free money.
But most people don't. They reject it because it feels unfair, even though it costs them.
That's so true. Our sense of fairness can definitely override pure self-interest.
Exactly. And think about it. People take lower-paying jobs for a sense of purpose. We pour hours into hobbies that make zero money. We enjoy puzzles just for the mental gymnastics.
Yeah, the standard economic model doesn't really account for that well.
Right. Like Bruno Frey said, intrinsic motivation is of great importance for all economic activities. It is inconceivable that people are motivated solely or even mainly by external incentives.
So this idea of us as just carrot chasers, it's just wrong, or at least incomplete.
Very incomplete. Okay, and the third incompatibility is about how we actually do our work these days.
How we do it.
Yeah, the shift from routine, algorithmic work to more creative, heuristic work.
Okay, explain algorithmic versus heuristic.
Algorithmic is like following a recipe. Set instructions, one right answer, check out clerk scanning items. Carrots and sticks can work okay there.
Right, clear steps, clear outcome.
But heuristic work, that needs experimenting, finding new solutions, like designing an ad campaign or writing code or developing a strategy.
Stuff that doesn't have a manual.
Exactly. And for that kind of work, external rewards can be, well, Teresa Amabile calls them devastating for creativity.
Devastating. Wow. Why?
Because if you're just focused on the reward, you might take the easiest path, the most obvious one. You don't explore, you don't take risks.
It narrows your focus too much. That makes sense.
And the world of work is changing. Automation, offshoring.
Yeah.
They're taking over a lot of that routine algorithmic stuff.
So the jobs left are more of the creative, problem-solving kind.
Increasingly, yeah. McKinsey estimated only about 30% of U.S. job growth is algorithmic now. The rest needs that heuristic thinking.
And you can't just dangle a carrot for that.
Not effectively. Plus, think about the rise of freelancers, entrepreneurs, non-employer businesses. There are millions. They have to be self-directed.
Right. There's no boss holding a carrot or a stick in the traditional way.
So the very nature of work is shifting, making that old Motivation 2.0 feel really outdated.
Okay, so the foundation is shaky. But Pink goes further, right? He talks about specific downsides.
He does. He outlines 7 deadly flaws of carrots and sticks, ways they can actively backfire.
7. Okay, let's hear them. What's number 1?
Number 1, they can extinguish intrinsic motivation. He calls it the Sawyer effect.
Like Tom Sawyer getting his friends to pay to paint the fence.
Exactly, by making it seem desirable. Rewards can accidentally turn something fun, something you want to do, into work, something you only do for the reward.
And that kills the internal drive.
It can. Remember that preschooler study with the drawing?
Vaguely. Remind me.
Lepper and Green found kids who expected a reward for drawing actually spent less time drawing later, just for fun, compared to kids who weren't rewarded or got a surprise reward.
So the reward actually reduced their interest. That's so counterintuitive.
It really is. But Deci looked at like 128 different studies on this.
Wow. And
his analysis showed tangible rewards generally have a substantially negative effect on intrinsic motivation, especially if they're seen as controlling.
okay, so flaw 1. They can kill intrinsic motivation. What's next?
Second flaw, they can diminish performance.
Wait, diminish. You'd think more money, better performance.
That's the common assumption.
Wow.
But remember those economists doing studies in India?
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
They found that for tasks requiring even basic cognitive skills memory, creativity higher incentives led to worse performance in 8 out of 9 tasks.
Worse. Not just no effect, but actually worse.
Worse. And it wasn't just that study. The London School of Economics analyzed 51 studies of corporate pay-for-performance plans.
Yeah. What did they find?
They concluded these plans often have a negative impact on overall performance, especially for executives.
So just throwing money at people doesn't automatically make them perform better, especially on complex stuff.
Seems not. Okay, third deadly flaw. They can crush creativity.
We touched on this with heuristic tasks.
Right. Remember Glucksberg's candle problem experiment?
The one with the tacks and the box?
That's it. The group offered a cash prize, took, on average, 3.5 minutes longer to solve it.
Longer, because the reward narrowed their focus.
Exactly. It hinders that kind of flexible, out-of-the-box thinking you need. Amabiel's research on artists found the same thing.
The commissioned artworks?
Yeah, they were consistently rated as less creative than their non-commissioned work. And the artists felt more constrained when working for a specific reward.
Like wearing blinders, focused only on the prize. Okay, flaw 4.
Flaw 4. They can crowd out good behavior, altruism, cooperation, that sort of thing.
How so? Give me an example.
Okay, Titmus's classic study on blood donation. In countries where they paid for blood, donations were actually lower.
Paying people made them less likely to donate blood? Why?
It seemed to undermine the intrinsic altruistic motive. It turned a civic duty, a gift, into a transaction.
That's fascinating. Any other examples?
Yeah, the daycare study.
Yeah.
Nisi and Rusticini. They introduced a fine for parents who picked up their kids late.
Okay, standard practice. Did it work?
No. Late pickups actually increased.
Increased? But why?
It seems the fine removed the moral or social guilt. Instead of feeling bad about inconveniencing the staff, parents just saw it as a fee they could pay for being late. It became a simple economic transaction.
Wow. So putting a price on something can actually remove the ethical consideration. That's disturbing.
It can be? Okay, flaw 5. They encourage cheating, shortcuts, and unethical behavior.
Yeah. The pressure to get the reward at all costs.
Exactly. Think about high-stakes testing leading to teaching to the test, or worse.
Yeah.
Or sales goals leading to pushing products people don't need. The focus shifts from doing good work to just hitting the metric.
Right. The goal becomes the reward itself, not the actual quality or integrity.
Precisely. Flaw number 6. They can become addictive.
Addictive. Like you need bigger and bigger rewards.
Kind of, yeah. This economist, Suvorov, modeled it. Basically, extrinsic rewards can create a dependency. You need increasingly larger doses to get the same motivational effect.
So it's like a tolerance builds up. That sounds unsustainable.
Very. And finally, flaw 7. They foster short-term thinking.
Because you're just focused on the immediate reward.
Exactly. You optimize for the next bonus, the next quarterly report, and you might ignore the long-term health of the project or the company or even the economy.
Like companies obsessed with quarterly earnings that have lower long-term growth.
That's a classic example.
Yeah.
Or even contributing factors to the 2008 financial crisis, chasing short-term gains while ignoring massive long-term risks.
Okay, so those 7 flaws paint a pretty bleak picture for carrots and sticks. Are they ever useful?
Well, yes. Pink is clear about that. There's an exception, a specific context where they can work, or at least do less harm.
And that is?
Routine algorithmic tasks. The dull stuff.
The work that isn't inherently interesting anyway.
Exactly. Like Deci, Ryan, and Kozner said, rewards do not undermine people's intrinsic motivation for dull tasks, because there is little or no intrinsic motivation to be undermined.
So if there's no inner spark to kill, the reward might just provide a needed push.
Pretty much. Early studies found bonuses worked fine for purely mechanical skills, the non-cognitive stuff.
Okay, so for boring tasks, rewards are okay. But how should we use them even then?
Pink offers some guidelines. First, make sure the baseline compensation salary, benefits, is adequate and fair. Take the money issue off the table as much as possible.
Right, meet people's basic needs first.
And then, if you add extra rewards for routine tasks, favor now that rewards over if-then rewards.
Okay, now that versus if-then. Explain that.
If-then is the classic contingent reward. If you do this, then you'll get that. It's promised beforehand.
Like a sales commission.
Right. Now that is offered after the task is done, unexpectedly. Right. Like, now if the project is finished, here's a bonus for your hard work.
So it feels more like recognition than a bribe.
Exactly. Less controlling, less likely to undermine motivation, if any exists. And even for routine tasks, give people autonomy in how they do it, if possible.
Okay, that makes sense. What about rewards for non-routine creative work? Is that just a total no-go?
It's very tricky. Pink suggests if you must use them, focus on things like enabling commissions, maybe rewards that give someone resources to pursue an interesting side project, or rewards that provide useful feedback.
So frame them in a way that supports autonomy or mastery, not just compliance.
That's the idea. Okay, so if Motivation 2.0 is flawed, what's the upgrade?
That would be Motivation 3.0, right?
Right, and it runs on what Pink calls Type I behavior, I for intrinsic.
As opposed to Type X for extrinsic.
You got it. Type I behavior is fueled by intrinsic motivation. It comes from within, and it stands on 3 pillars:
Okay, the 3 pillars of intrinsic motivation. Let's hear them.
autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Autonomy, mastery, purpose. Okay, those sound fundamental.
They really are. And Pink stresses type I isn't something you're just born with. It's made, it can be developed.
So it's a skill or a mindset we can cultivate.
Absolutely. And type I think people still care about money and recognition, don't get me wrong, but they're not the main drivers.
Right. Fair pay takes money off the table, as you said, and recognition is valued as feedback, not the ultimate prize.
Exactly. And crucially, type of motivation is renewable. It doesn't run out like extrinsic rewards can. It can actually grow.
Okay, let's break down those pillars. First one, autonomy.
Autonomy, the urge to direct our own lives, to have control over what we do, when we do it, how we do it, and who we do it with.
Control over task, time, technique, and team. The 4 Ts.
Precisely. Pink gives examples like ROWE, the results-only work environment, no set schedules, no required location, just get the work done.
That sounds radical, but also incredibly empowering.
It can be. Or look at Atlassian, this software company. They have 20% time.
Right, where engineers get 1 day a week to work
Yeah.
on whatever project they want.
Yeah. And it's led to tons of new product ideas and fixes.
Mm.
Their co-founder basically said money isn't the motivator beyond a certain point. Autonomy is key.
Even 3M had that 15% time way back, didn't they? Didn't Post-it notes come out of that?
They did. Art Fry used his autonomous time to develop them. It shows the power of giving people that freedom.
Okay, so what's the actionable insight for listeners? Most of us can't just implement 20% time tomorrow.
True. But you can start smaller. Can you carve out even an hour a week for a passion project at work or a personal project? Can you look for small ways to increase your control over your tasks, your schedule, your methods?
Maybe negotiate how you approach a project or volunteer for tasks you find interesting.
Exactly. Even just defining your own boundaries, as Seth Godin suggests, is a form of autonomy. Pick your limits.
Okay, small steps towards self-direction. I like that. What's the second pillar?
Mastery. The desire to get better and better at something that matters.
That urge to improve, to learn, to grow our skills.
Right. This ties into Csikszentmihalyi's Mahali's concept of flow.
Being in the zone. Completely absorbed, challenged, but not overwhelmed.
Exactly. Flow happens when the challenge level is just right for your skill level, those Goldilocks tasks. Not too hard, not too easy.
And that feeling of flow is intrinsically rewarding. The activity is its own reward.
Totally. Remember that Swedish railway company, Green Cargo?
Yeah, they became profitable after focusing on creating flow-friendly environments.
For the first time in over a century. And studies of scientists show the desire for intellectual challenge is the best predictor of their productivity, like how many patents they generate.
Okay, so fostering mastery is key. Pink has laws for this too, right?
He does 3 laws of mastery. First, mastery is a mindset.
Growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Carol Dweck's work.
Exactly. Growth mindset is believing abilities can be developed. Fixed mindset is thinking they're innate. Growth mindset people see effort as key and bounce back from setbacks better.
So believing you can get better is the first step.
Crucial first step.
Yeah.
Second law, mastery is a pain.
Huh. Doesn't sound very motivational.
Well, it means mastery requires effort. Deliberate, practice-focused work aimed specifically at improving. It requires grit, perseverance. It's often not fun in the moment.
Right, it's hard work. Consistent, focused effort.
And the third law, mastery is an asymptote.
An asymptote. Like in math. A line you approach but never quite reach.
Exactly. You can always get better. You never fully arrive at mastery. It's a continuous journey.
Okay, so mastery is a mindset, it takes hard work, and it's a lifelong pursuit. Actionable insight.
Pick something you care about improving. Break it down into those Goldilocks challenges. Cultivate that growth mindset. See effort and setbacks as part of the process. Embrace the deliberate practice, even the boring parts.
Focus on the process of getting better, not just the end result.
Okay. And the third pillar,
Purpose. The yearning to do what we do in the service of something larger than ourselves.
connecting our work, our efforts to a bigger meaning.
Right. Pink talks about the baby boomer reflection, people hitting a certain age and thinking more about legacy and meaning. But it's not just older generations, is it? Millennials, Gen Z, they seem very purpose-driven too.
Definitely. They often look for more than just a paycheck, a good team, a chance to make a difference, work that aligns with their values.
And we see that reflected in the rise of purpose-driven organizations we talked about earlier. TOMS Shoes, B Corps.
Exactly. Organizations where purpose is baked into the mission, not just an afterthought. Even those Harvard Business School students questioning the focus on finance after 2008.
Right, seeking something more meaningful than just maximizing profit.
And research backs this up. Dizzy and Ryan's study of graduates found those pursuing intrinsic goals, personal growth, relationships, community contribution, reported higher well-being than those chasing extrinsic goals like wealth or fame.
So purpose isn't just nice to have, it actually contributes to our well-being.
It seems so. The actionable insight here, Iris, is to reflect. What's your purpose? How does what you do connect to something bigger?
Even if your job isn't inherently world-changing, can you find purpose in how you do it or connect it to values you hold?
Exactly. Or maybe find purpose through volunteering, hobbies, community involvement. Look for ways to serve something beyond yourself.
Autonomy, mastery, purpose, it's a powerful combination.
It really is.
Hmm.
And Pink doesn't just leave us with the theory. The end of the book has a whole toolkit section. Practical exercises.
Oh, nice. Like what?
Things like doing a flow test. Track your activities and mood to see when you're most engaged. Figure out what triggers flow for you.
So you can try to structure your day for more of those moments. Smart.
Yeah, or asking yourself the big question. What's your sentence? Like, if you had to sum up your life's focus or contribution in one sentence, what would it be? Helps clarify purpose,
That's a tough one.
but powerful.
He also suggests taking a Sagmeister, inspired by the designer Stefan Sagmeister, who takes a year off every 7 years.
A full sabbatical. Wow, maybe a mini one.
Even a mini one. A focused break to recharge, explore interest. Also, doing a DIY report card, evaluating yourself against your own goals, focusing on learning.
Not just external metrics, but your own progress. I like that. Moving 5 steps closer to mastery through deliberate practice. Answering what gets you up in the morning and what keeps you up at night. To gauge meaning.
These are really concrete things people can try.
Totally. Trying small experiments in autonomy. Designing your workspace or even your online presence to support autonomy, mastery, purpose. For managers, finding Goldilocks tasks for their teams.
And the zen of compensation, pay fairly to take money off the table.
Right, maybe even pay more than average. Use broad performance metrics that are hard to game. Focus on enabling people to do great work.
It really flips the script on traditional management.
It does. He even has advice for parents and educators how to foster type I motivation in kids.
Like applying the autonomy mastery purpose test to homework.
Yeah, does it offer choice? Does it help them get better? Is the purpose clear? He'd suggest things like DIY report cards for kids too, separating allowance from chores.
Why separate allowance and chores?
To avoid turning helping out around the house, which could be intrinsically motivated, into a purely transactional thing. Don't make chores something they only do for money.
Ah, protecting that intrinsic motivation again. Makes sense. Helping kids see the bigger picture, too.
Exactly. It's all about nurturing that inner drive, not just controlling behavior with external levers.
Wow, okay, Donald. This whole deep dive, it's given me a lot to think about, seriously.
Me too. That core idea that rewards can actually backfire, and that we're really wired for autonomy, mastery, and purpose. It feels revolutionary, doesn't it?
It really does. And for everyone listening, the key thing is you have this innate drive inside you already.
Yeah, it's not something you need to find. It's about uncovering it, nurturing it.
And understanding it, designing your life and work around it, that's not just about productivity, is it? It's about satisfaction, about meaning.
Absolutely. Think about those times you felt totally absorbed, truly engaged, time just flying by.
That was probably flow,
Right.
driven by some mix of autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
So the question for you listening now is, what can you do with this?
Maybe start small. Try that flow test. See where you're already experiencing it.
Or just take 5 minutes to think about what really gets you excited to learn or contribute. What's your purpose piece?
Even small shifts, seeking a bit more autonomy, consciously practicing a skill, connecting your tasks to a bigger goal, they can make a real difference.
And definitely start questioning those old assumptions about motivation. At work, at home, even how you motivate yourself.
Yeah, the science suggests there's often a better way than just dangling a carrot or threatening with a stick.
The big takeaway really is that you hold the key. You, the curious learner. It's about tending to that inner fire, not just relying on external fuel.
We really hope this deep dive sparks some ideas, some aha moments for you. What part resonated the most?
Yeah, what little experiment might you try this week? A tiny step towards more autonomy. Or maybe carving out time for mastery. We'd love to know.
And if you want to go even deeper, definitely check out Daniel Pink's book, Drive. It's full of more research, examples, strategies.
It's a fantastic read. Highly recommended.
Well, thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We hope it gave you some valuable food for thought and maybe inspired you to go find a new puzzle just for the fun of it.